Hello, everyone, and welcome to another instance of the Michael Pulowski experiment. I've got Jonathan on again, and we had a conversation recently, gave us a new idea of maybe a persistent conversation we'll be having. We were bringing up the idea of hope, and I think lately, hope is something that a lot of people need. Actually, I've discussed this with a few friends of mine. Just the idea that we're about to start something like this, and everyone's like, "Wow, yeah, that's a great conversation." So, a lot of expectation. No, I'm kidding. That's really, I think a lot of people are seeing a lot of stuff in their lives that aren't meeting their expectations of things, and I know that's kind of what hope is to me. Um, Expecting things are gonna be better. That there's gonna be some kind of give me a win every now and then. Give me that there's another win coming on the horizon, and I mean, there's a lot of deadlines coming up. I know Christmas comes up, and that's always anxiety for people. I feel like every day we get closer to the mythical happy time of Christmas, people get more stressed out. It's a really weird phenomenon, but isn't Christmas supposed to be a time of hope? You know, when you look at it from a religious standpoint, not to make this a religious thing, but religion does inspire
Absolutely.
hope. You know,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think it's
It's
goofy. It's goofy that the time of hope is where people get the most stressed out.
well, I mean, a lot of that could just be that it's also winter and you don't see the sun that often.
That's
So,
too. That's true. And also, you end up seeing a lot more family, and for some people, that can be taxing in and of itself. Just knowing that there's an expectation and family combined, that can be. The thing is, it's for the good and bad. I think the expectation creates really good events too, and people are hopeful for how great those events can be. So you can take it in a positive light. Anxiety is good, or it can be really bad. It can do a lot of things. So I think we talked about making this maybe persistent, and actually we'll have fun with it, especially getting into Christmas. I know coming up is there's going to be a lot going on between now and then. We can discuss maybe how we see things to be hopeful of, and if it just makes sense to be hopeful. Because I know there's people I run into, they almost make a business of the opposite. You know, they're almost peddlers of despair. I guess might be a
right,
way.
right.
Is that a fair way of judging these nefarious beings?
Well, some people are nefarious in it,
Yes.
and other people just come by it naturally.
Yes.
I uh, to be honest with you, I don't view our conversation in this project being able to turn around those who want to traffic in despair, because of the evil in their heart. What I really want to do is I want to encourage the people who don't typically despair, or the people who do typically despair, but come by it naturally and honestly.
That makes sense. I mean, that's the thing is also people. When I say peddler despair, I'm really branding people harshly because the thing is, there's moments where we're all peddlers despair. You know, I think everyone needs to have a moment where they're saying exactly what's bothering them, and it's the way you handle it and how often you're doing it that kind of makes you more to the bothersome group. You know. I think everyone needs to healthily be able to say what's going on, say this is why I can't have hope. You know, that's maybe that's kind of an avenue we can have is discussing because it's logical to be hopeful, and I think that's kind of what we tracked onto of why this needs to be a conversation, and maybe that's the avenue we're going to have is we're going to rationalize why there's so many things to be hopeful for from a pretty broad lens. Is the probably to be I was going to say inclusive, but that sounds very PC. Is try to have the definitions of hopefulness that the most people, I'll just say from an age standpoint, from a whatever, is where it affects everyone. Because right now, I don't even understand why, and maybe that's the next point we should get into real quick. Discussing hope is why is now a good time? Because the funny thing is that's what people have told me. I don't know if you've heard that at all or even think this, but is this a time that hope needs to be discussed more than say last year at this time?
Yeah, I think so. I think that because of everything that's been happening this year.
Hmm.
I mean, especially this year, uh, people are people are choosing despair more often. At least I've noticed that,
Hmm.
and frankly, a lot of ways that people had that were healthy outlets for being able to deal with stress and anxiety have been curtailed.
Mm.
And,
I have no idea what you're talking about, man. I have no issues right now. All the things I want to do are available to me. I just have to put my mask on first, and then I have to, yeah. It,
yeah. There's been nothing that's happened to you professionally.
no, no,
Bonus, you had.
I love my profession. The restaurant business is booming right now, and make sure you invest in it because it's the right call. I mean, things are going to be happening to everyone, and if you're in the mass business, I'm sure things were great. I don't know why, and that's a funny thing. Is like I don't know why you'd be in. That's almost you talk about people in despair. Is who's profiting off a lot of this? The big box stores and all that. They're not in despair right now. I'll tell you, whoever's working up that chain they're probably doing just fine right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of hours at Amazon right now.
Exactly.
So,
I've heard there's people working at Amazon and they're actually pretty happy. If you do you know any? There's Amazon here in the Ohio area. I don't know in Colorado. Is there any Amazon
oh yeah,
tendrils? Yeah.
oh
Do,
yeah,
do you
yeah,
know
yeah,
anyone
yeah.
that works for the company or?
I do, and she loves her job. I mean, heck,
I've heard the
I worked
same.
for Amazon way back in the day. So,
So Amazon isn't this big problem that it necessarily needs to be. It's as far as the logistical network.
I mean, I don't see a problem with Amazon.
Just wanted to mention that real quick because it always needs to be. It's kind of like the quick way of encapsulating that conversation is. I think most people think Amazon is this big, nasty conglomerate, which it can sound like, but I think that's a narrative that's been spun to rile people up too.
Oh yeah. Well,
That's, I
oh
mean,
dear God, I can find exactly what I need to by just going to one
point
website.
being is check out. Jonathan's been on here before. We've discussed Amazon. So I just for anyone who hasn't seen any of our shows, this is something we've discussed. So we're making jokes about it, but for those of you who don't know, it's definitely a narrative that's been spun for you to hate on a lot of what's going on. It sounds bad that one chain can gobble up the market, but we don't seem to complain when we get stuff in a day. Is that
Right.
is that the best way of summarizing?
Yeah.
So the point being is like there's growth happening in the market and people are like scared because it is these big box things and things that you feel like you might not be a part of, but is it possible that these things that we're trying to label as monsters maybe from a societal standpoint, I don't know whether it's the media or just conversations people are having, but I think the Amazon idea is maybe an example of a lot of these big entities that people are fearful of not being a part of. Amazon's not an issue from what you heard.
Right. Well, right. I mean, it isn't an issue. The fact of the matter is Amazon is succeeding for one specific reason, and that one specific reason is it's especially in the past couple months, it was harder to go out and get your stuff. It was much easier to order. You
Mm-hmm.
know, that's simply a market reaction to the facts on the ground.
That's it.
Um, and getting back to hope,
Well, I
the
was going to say I have another company that's doing well. It's
okay,
Grubhub, DoorDash, Uber,
right,
all these things are flying. And when you look at it, is people are so. I was just going to say people are getting desperate because the market's shifting in a different direction. But that's the thing about a market is it's not going to necessarily die. That pie is going to stay there. The question is how are we going to react to what people are doing? And that was where I was going to just give it back to you is like there's no reason to be desperate. People worry that I've heard fall of the empire, fall of Rome. Are we living in that? That took a long time. People, when you look into your history, the fall of Rome took way too long. Almost the way people describe Caligula, you know.
Right. Well, and here's the thing, as far as fall of the empire and stuff like that, that's a good thing. Like if we the thing that's making us less American now is our empire. If we stopped being an empire, we might start being America again.
Exactly. Oh wow, that's probably the best thing we've said on this podcast. Honestly,
Right.
You know,
Right.
yeah. In the most ironic thing about that is we can almost invert ourselves and become more imperialistic in that way. Is if we can set ourselves as a role model for how the rest of the world should be, like we did at one point. It sounds like we were an inspiration to the world, and that's why people flocked here. They
Right.
wanted to come here. Like, wow, look at what they're doing here. Thing is, people are doing that now, but they're kind of staying and not doing what we all planned to do at one point. Is that a good way of saying it?
Well, I mean, I think that the big thing as far as
open borders go is all I'm saying.
Oh,
That's all. Is
yeah. I mean the
I didn't mean to open. I definitely opened up a way bigger thing there. And we're definitely getting off hope. Is why I'm gonna actually digress
Right.
both of us here, because if you do answer that, we're gonna have to keep going. But point is, there's a lot of hope in what America can be. I think.
Yes.
We've done it before, and we can do it. And that's the funny thing. That's one of the things Trump says is he is a very hopeful president, whether you like him or not. And you think he's lying through his teeth or not, he's definitely hopeful.
Right.
Of what America can be, and it's what he sells. He sells hope to people.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is he'd be right if he could just end the empire.
Yes.
You know.
And I gotta say, one thing that gets passed over with Trump is he's very anti-war, which I think is one of the first things we could do when you say dismantle the empire to focus more on making America America again. I think is ending foreign wars. I know that's
yeah. To be clear, when I say end the empire, I mean end the wars and bring all the troops home.
Yes, I think that's the first and foremost thing to do,
including Germany and Japan.
Yep.
Like bring them all home.
All of them home. I know there's a lot of military people who are not about that idea. And the thing is, we haven't tried it. We haven't tried it in years.
We haven't tried it since Wilson.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and you could even go back farther if you want to consider the bases in the Philippines, and
Right.
we had our places before World War II.
Oh yeah, we had a mini empire before World War I.
We were definitely copying the British. Point being is, America's been great, and we're pretending like if we're not doing what we used to do, we're not going to be great. Where I think it's more of and I think this is to bring it back to a personal level, and I think actually this has been a brilliant metaphor, because the United States is kind of forgetting what it is and what it was, what it is, and what it can be. That's the same thing on a personal level for like what hope is and does for you. It's like, I think all kids, and we've all been kids, have hope at one point. Whether or not you lost that and never gained it back, or sometimes gained it back, or always have it, which those are the three options logically, it can come back to you. And the thing is, there's a lot of people, and this is where it goes back to maybe those peddlers of despair, is they want to, when you're looking just maybe from a gambling perspective, they're like, you're always going to lose. Don't bet, you're always going to lose. Don't bet, That doesn't really help people. It's not very logical either. You're simply going on the condition that things aren't going to work. And you might be right, but if that's the only stance you ever take, what do you even stand for at that point?
Well, if you believe that things will never work, you're going to be right, because you're going to
exactly.
You're going
for accuracy. Yeah, you're going for accuracy, not results.
Well, not just that, but if you're skateboarding and you're planning on doing a trick and you're convinced that you're just gonna eat it, guess what? You're
You're
going to
never, yeah.
crash.
And you're probably never going to do the trick either.
Well, and if you attempt it, you're just going to hurt yourself.
Right, right. Because well, at that point, I think you're too worried about not doing it that you're not going to do it, ironically. Is that I've never skateboarded,
Right.
but.
Right. Yes. I mean, you have to believe that you're going to land the trick to land the trick.
Or why else try? I think that's where the logical inconsistency is. Why would you try something you don't think you can do?
Right.
Yeah. It is.
Right.
And that's hope. Is you gotta hope you can do it before you try it. Well, why get up and go to work in the day if you don't think you can do it? Why, do anything? So, I mentioned logic. I want to make sure that's kind of what we're keying in on here. What to you dictates most of your hope? We don't need to get into exactly what you hope for, but what are the key points you key in on? I have a few myself I could get into, but are there certain things you look for? Because I look at life, your daily routine, your monthly routine, your yearly routine as a rhythm. There's certain times you're going to be looking at things, and how often are you seeing things as hopeful? Do you need to have hope in your life where things will continue to keep moving on? Because that's kind of it for me. It's like if I have too many bad weeks, now like you're actually statistically, like if you're looking at the stock market, you're like in a depression. It's all good.
Right.
Do you acknowledge you just gotta gather your troops and reassess the field? You can't just leave all your troops in one fort and not in another. Now it's like, okay, well, you got to commit to this front. So for you, how often do you evaluate that? Because I think that's going to be a good point for dictating how often we need to have the conversation.
Right. For me, it's more of a pressure type of thing than a frequency kind of thing. Because the funny thing is sometimes you don't have that many failures, but you feel like a failure. And other times for whatever reason you can you can hit a bunch of significant failures, but not really have that emotionally hit you.
Right. Right.
And so it's usually it's way more of an emotional thing.
With emotions, things hit at different times too. Is like some things are very easy to read and react. I mean, that's why we have road rage. It's like seeing a car come at you. Like you can see someone's emotion very quickly. It's a very quick emotional interaction, and then you move on. Certain things that they just hit you at different times. So when you have that's why I bring up road rage. When you have road rage, when you have other emotional friction going on, that's when you have the blow up. That's when you don't normally yell, but that's the day you decide to yell. I think that's a good way of that. Well, that's how I look at the frequency side of things. But pressure is a good example too, because a lot of times there's not as many opportunities in your life, for better or worse, to so I was going to bring it back to hope, but it's to be stressed. I mean, I think hope is a antidote in a way, or maybe an offsetting factor to your stress, to your anxiety, whatever's taking up bandwidth. Is a good way to put it in your emotions and in your brain. And I don't know what to you is more. To answer the question for myself. For me, frequency is what I look at more. It's what I key in on more. For you, is it pressure more? Is being more cognizant of how much you have on your plate?
For me, it's way more of a pressure type of thing than it is anything that I could really chart out. It could also be that I am more prone to melancholy in general. So it could very well be that when I'm feeling despair or anything close to that has way more to do with my emotional sine wave,
right?
Than than it does with anything that I could really put into Excel and chart out. You know,
Hmm.
um,
Yeah. No. What's funny is for me, frequency is what I'm more cognizant of, but I could definitely see that making sense. There's probably more to see actually if you focus on the pressure side of things. But for me, I try to look at more how often things have happened over a period of time versus how bad does it get. Is that a good layman's way of putting it?
yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Yeah. So why to get back to now we just laid out like what we key in on when we're trying to figure this out is
Right.
why is it logical to remain hopeful? I'm going to ask you from your standpoint, being when the pressure's mounting on you, why do you choose hope? What's your logical reasoning there? Because I think we discussed kind of what it is and how it affects
Right.
us, but
Right. So my logical reasoning for choosing hope, even when I'm emotionally feeling that pressure, like I'm losing,
mm,
is it is that uh, I always view it as a type of investment,
okay,
and the interesting thing about anytime you look into investing anything, especially money, is human beings are obviously emotional,
right,
uh, and when it comes to key decision making, we're more emotional than we are rational,
mm,
and and and, and that
this is the
usually
time, yeah,
that tends to make us uh, self-destructive when we're making investment decisions. Meaning, for, from a stock market standpoint, everybody knows that you're supposed to buy when a stock is low and sell when a stock is high, right?
okay, yeah, right,
Now, nobody knows when it's going to be low or when it's going to be high. You can follow trends, but nobody really knows. So what does that actually mean for the regular investor? Well, the regular investor typically follows a trend,
mm-hmm.
ends up buying towards the top, and then they start seeing the trend go down as other more mature investors have seen this thing
What they
peak
want to
and they
see,
start
yeah, they've
selling.
seen what they want to see out
Yeah,
of this, right? The life
right,
cycle, yeah,
right. So it goes down, and the regular immature investor starts selling, and they sell usually at the low point,
right,
which is when the mature investor starts buying again, right?
exactly.
Uh,
Well, you have one coming in, one coming out,
right.
and
Uh, and and I think that's exactly the way that people who don't take a breath and take a step back can start viewing things. They can start letting their anxiety and letting their actual failures, because usually your anxiety and your stress and your depression and all of that, it is rooted on legitimate things.
oh
I,
yeah.
I recognize for some
Well,
people that
they're
it cannot be,
legitimate
but usually, yeah.
observations. They're not legitimate
Right.
observations because here's the thing, and this is where I think people coming in to help. I think we'd mentioned the idea of handling. Actually, no, it's a conversation I had this morning with my roommate. We were saying handling stress and emotion on your own is good and strong and all, like good for you. But the thing is, a lot of times you just simply need another perspective around, and that enough is stabilizing where you can now just be a better version of yourself anyway. It's as a Taoist, I don't need to argue the idea of two, right?
Right.
But it's the logical side of things and that appeal to logic that I think keeps people grounded, and that's why I think two people being involved in the conversation is important. I want to just make sure we have a clear ask for people because I think we're getting to the end of this point. I think we explained things fairly well, but in the future, what are the things that people can ask us of their struggles for hope, their investments they should be making for themselves. What kind of things do you think would be a good conversation in the future? Should we be um, answering questions for people, or do you think we should be discussing more what we're going through? Because I think if we discuss what we're thinking about, maybe we can be seeing things that other people are seeing as well. Maybe things in the news or things that we're all observing in real time. Do you have anything that you think would be good applying these investments to in the future?
You know,
Conversations?
I'm open to whatever people want to ask about, and wherever people want to take this. I I'm reticent to give direct advice, because I'm not sure I can. Well, I'm confident that I can't live anybody else's life better than I'm living my own, and,
Right.
and I'm also confident that I haven't lived my own as well as I could. So, I can give things for people to think about and consider, but I'm not sure about direct advice.
Well,
Beyond that,
we've also mentioned that we have a goal of being hopeful. So if people know they're coming to us, that's what we've said, is we're going to provide you hope. Whether you deserve it or not, that's up to you guys as an audience. But we are going to be coming from perspective. I joke, of course, but we're going to come in here and we're going to try to make sure we can be supportive. I mean, I've known John, for anyone who hasn't seen anything we've done, we've known each other for a few years now, just over Twitter. So if you want to get a hold of us, our hashtags are right there. He is or hashtag, what is it? It's not hashtag. It's, what's it called? Handle. Is at the Jonathan with spaces there. I'm not going to read it out loud for you, but at Mike Pause for me. You can reach out to either of us. I don't know, if we keep doing this, we might make a unique handle for the show. But also, if you want to get involved, there is a Discord for this. I don't know if I can. You can come to the Michael Pulaski Experiment. That's what we're doing this on. So if you ever do want to be a part of the show, let us know, because this isn't unique to just us. I think being hopeful is something that's to be shared. You can't really do it on your own. So whether it's asking us questions or telling us what you do to be hopeful, we can discuss something you bring up. You can ask something for us to get into, or you can be on and I can fade to the mist here and you can tell us what your thoughts are, because I think the more perspectives we can share, the better our conversation is. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. But really, guys, this whole idea is to be an open project, and it's really to get as many people as possible thinking about hope, thinking about what makes them hopeful, why they choose hope. If there are people who are brave out there that want to share why they don't think that hope is for them right now, obviously we want you on, or we want your viewpoint.
That's kind of our ask for the show. Our thing is, Crowder has his change my mind. We'll make you hopeful. That's if we can't do it, you get your money back. Thanks for being on the show, but we will do our best to take your despair and send it back your way and make you hopeful. But
right.
if we can't,
want you locking in your losses.
I'm sorry.
We don't want you locking in your losses.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, that's that. Locking in those bad investments, think you can't ever do it again. Yeah, that doesn't help anybody, and we don't want you being out there doing it.
Right, your failure should strengthen you.
Yes,
it shouldn't kill you.
Well, and you're supposed to grow from it. Is just in the restaurant business, I always tell people, very similar to what you're saying, don't lock in your losses. My saying is this: it's not a matter of making a mistake; it's how you're recovered from it. It's an old adage, but if you forget it, it's dumb not having one. So that's what it comes down to. Jonathan, it's been great having you on. Anything else we need to plug? I mean, we'll do this
No,
again.
this is it.
As soon as we need it, as soon as the pressure and frequency hits us, we'll do another one of these. Until then,
Right.
let us know what your thoughts are. Like I said, if you like this, let us know what you like about it and help us steer the direction. Because until you tell us anything, we're just going to do our own thing. Take it
Right.
easy.